Hello, Donna. Thank you for coming in today to Brain Injury Matters to record our podcast. As you know, the workshops that we've been taking part in have been called the Untraced Find. And the Untraced Find is a legal term for an item in a museum's collection that has no story. And we always felt that was a very sad and lonely place to be for an item with no story. Immediately when I met you, I had brought in a selection of objects. You were drawn to 1930s teapots, and I will never forget, you started to tell me a story without any preparation, without any research. So what I'd love you to do now is just talk to me about your story and how this item and the subject inspired your story.
The teapots for me were something that brings me back to my nana. My nana, when I was a little girl, she collected teapots, but she one day gave me a big large teapot to take up and to play up the back garden, and that's what I would have done with my teddies and my dollies. And then later on, when I got married and moved to England, every little place we went, I always picked up little individual teapots, so little antique ones to little tin ones that were all handcrafted. For everywhere we were in London, we were Staffordshire, everywhere, and all these little teapots that when I looked at them brought lovely memories from all the places that I lived, and I lived in a lot of different places around the world, and I had ones from Germany when I was over in Munich, and so they were very, very special, but they really do take me back to the lovely times I had with my nana, and I loved just to collect all the lovely little colourful ones, all shapes and sizes.
I think also there's something about a teapot that brings you to the heart of the home. The whole philosophy about making tea, oh, let's have a cup of tea. It's not just a Northern Irish thing, it's a generic thing. It's in your family. Oh, come in, pop round for a cup of tea. It's a euphemism for let's spend some time together, let's think about something. But when you're young, having your imaginary tea parties, you're being the grown up. You're being in charge of making the tea. In Japan, they have whole tea ceremonies. There's so much prestige associated with the process. They wear kimonos and they have beautiful teapots with bamboo handles. The teapot I have in front of me, I have carried around with me. You talked about moving a lot. I always felt I was a bit like a tortoise. I moved very regularly, but on top of my back, I would have everything with me, and every place I moved to, I seemed to have more stuff. But this teapot came with me. I used to go to mini auctions when I lived in northwest London, and I lived in a very predominantly Jewish area where every year the families would empty their house of all their white goods and china, send them to a charity shop. At Passover, they would have new china. So I was always picking up amazing things, and this one I picked up because it was older than everything that was normally there. So I think the teapot as an untraced find and your story, I can just imagine you feel grown up when you're little playing with the teapot.
Yes, it was really lovely, beautiful memories. I can remember it so clearly. Nana giving me the teapot, filling it up, taking up the back of the garden. I had it all to myself with all my little teddies and dolls and just playing a little shop, and that was great times that I had with those, and then to keep carrying it on as I went to different places. So,
and do you display them in your house or your teapots now?
In my other house I had a lot of room to put them all, so I could point to you where I got that one, where I got that one, the antique shops I got that one. I haven't got them all displayed in the house I'm in now, because it's a new house and it's very small, but I still got them all there in their individual little cases.
And there's something quite comforting about having an item that you can relate a place that you lived in. Sometimes there are memories that you don't want to go back to, but there's something quite wholesome and safe about a teapot that the memories would be quite good associated
because
to that.
I would have had the little teapots. My husband actually worked for a company called, I think it's Port Miriam, is it? And he used to bring me them back, all the different ones. So I was collecting those as well. That's when we lived in Northampton, I think it was. And because of having so many children, You know, so all the different wee things all connect from we lived in that place and we had one of our sons, and then we lived in the other place, we had the second son. We lived, so they've all got little different stories to tell.
And Portmeirion is one of those names that's synonymous with quality, manufacturing, a famous village. There's a village of Portmeirion, isn't there?
There is a village, yes. I don't know the whole history about it all, but I just remember when he brought one back for me, and then I got another one, and I started collecting all that selection as well.
Yeah, and there would be places, you know, that exist, like Wedgwood is a place, but also Belique.
Yeah.
Now they make
Beautiful ones.
Beautiful ones. And what's unique about Belique, because I've been there to the factory, is that the clay that they use comes from the area, and it's a very unique and specific type of clay, which I think is quite masterful to actually be working in a contemporary
with all
ceramic factory, but with the clay that comes from the place. It's quite a magical place. And if you like teapots, and
that's the place to go.
I think you can go there. You can pass through Lusty Bear, because I had to go there to visit, to do a workshop in the factory. I thought I was never going to get there, and I was driving through all these names of places that have always registered with me, never thinking I would drive past. And then you see the sign to Belique, and you arrive. It's a tiny place, but you know when you're there, it's quite magical. It's really, really beautiful. And I think another thing from childhood, your children and your grandchildren, they're going to remember the teapots. They're going to relate you to those things.
Yeah.
I think that's a really lovely thing.
Because they are fascinated when they come in and ask you about certain wee ones that I do have out in display that I've got enough room for, especially some of the tiny ones they're like not tin, I don't know what you would call it, and it's all very, very carefully hand painted, and they're from Munich, where I got a lovely supply of those. So they like to hear all the wee stories of all the different ones.
I'm sure somewhere there is a museum of teapots. I shall try and find out for you.
That'd be great.
In other things that we've talked about in the collection for the Untraced Find, we've had a doll's house, we've had a teddy bear, we've had a Bakelite radio, we've had books, we've had some textiles, but we haven't had a teapot before, so it's really lovely to talk about that.
Yes.
Have you enjoyed taking part in the project?
Oh, absolutely. It's been lovely seeing all the different things as well, because I do love antique. I collect antique teddies as well that I'd got going way, way back.
Really?
And they've got nice little dresses and little socks, and they're like the wee old faces. So I've got 3 of them left. My auntie wanted 2, but I collect those too.
There's a museum in New York, or in fact a library, the public library in New York, I only found out recently, has got the original bear that Winnie the Pooh was based on, A.A. Milne, and the author donated the bear, the donkey and piglets to the library in New York in memory of his son, which I thought was really beautiful.
That's really lovely.
So there's something, again, about a bear, quite wholesome. The bear that we have a story about can also be heard about in this podcast. So you've enjoyed the project.
I've really, really enjoyed it, yes. It's been really, really lovely.
And I like the fact that you've bothered to write down your thoughts about it. And, you know, coming back week after week to take part in a project, it just shows you sometimes you only need 1 or 2 sessions and you can come up with the same story.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
if you're interested in something,
it just all comes, straight
together.
out. Yeah.
So I'd really love to thank you. I know you're a very busy girl. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much indeed.
It's been wonderful meeting you and taking part. And you definitely added some glamour to the project. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed for having me.